Picture this, a man living in a barrel on the streets of ancient Athens. This man is Diogenes of Sinope. Now Diogenes was no ordinary man, no ordinary philosopher. He was a wanderer, a vagabond, and a barrel was his home. Yes, you heard that right, a barrel. Not out of necessity, but by choice. Diogenes, a prominent figure of the Cynic philosophy, lived his life in stark contrast to societal norms. He sought simplicity, not opulence. He saw value in the bare necessities, not in materialistic excess. His home, a barrel, was a testament to this philosophy. It symbolized his rejection of conventional living, his pursuit of minimalism, and his commitment to self-sufficiency. Diogenes' barrel was more than just a shelter. It was a statement, a symbol, a demonstration of his philosophy of life. Diogenes, the philosopher who made a barrel his castle, was no ordinary thinker. His life was his philosophy. Born in Sinope, an ancient city in modern-day Turkey, Diogenes was a controversial figure in Athens. His early life was marked by scandal, as his father, a banker, was accused of defacing currency. Seeking a fresh start, young Diogenes set sail for Athens, the heart of philosophical thought in the ancient world. In Athens, Diogenes found his calling in the teachings of Antisthenes, the founder of Cynicism. This wasn't the cynicism we know today, marked by negativity and distrust. No, this was a philosophy rooted in the pursuit of virtue and simplicity. Diogenes was captivated by these ideas, adopting them as his own. The philosophy of Cynicism required a radical break from societal norms. Diogenes embraced this wholeheartedly, living in a barrel and wearing only a simple cloak. These actions were not mere publicity stunts, but a way for Diogenes to live out his philosophy. Material possessions, he believed, were chains that bound men to a life of anxiety and discontent. By shedding these chains, Diogenes sought to free himself from societal pressures. His lifestyle was a stark contrast to the opulence of Athens, a city known for its wealth and extravagance. This attracted both scorn and fascination. Diogenes was ridiculed, but he was also respected. His brutal honesty and disregard for societal norms challenged the Athenians' way of life, forcing them to question their own values and beliefs. In his pursuit of virtue, Diogenes advocated for self-sufficiency and independence. He believed that happiness lay not in material possessions, but in the freedom from want. This idea was revolutionary, and it made Diogenes a figure of intrigue in the bustling city of Athens. Diogenes was not just a philosopher. He was a philosopher who lived his philosophy. His life was a testament to his beliefs, a living embodiment of Cynic principles. His rejection of societal norms, his pursuit of virtue, his commitment to self-sufficiency. These were not mere ideas, but a way of life. A life that was, in many ways, a reflection of the philosophy he so passionately espoused. Diogenes was the most famous of the Cynic philosophers, a school of thought that valued virtue above all else. This tenet was not just a theoretical concept for the Cynics, but rather a guiding principle that shaped their daily lives. The Cynics believed that the path to genuine happiness was not through material wealth or social status, but through a life of virtue and moral excellence. In the bustling city of Athens, Diogenes was a living embodiment of these Cynic principles. He rejected the societal norms and expectations of his time, choosing instead to live a life of voluntary poverty on the streets. This was not a result of misfortune, but a deliberate choice guided by his philosophy. Diogenes believed that by detaching himself from material possessions, he could focus on cultivating virtue and moral excellence. The Cynics believed that virtue was not a mere abstract concept, but something that should be practiced and cultivated every day. To them, virtue was not just about knowing what was right or wrong, but about living in accordance with these moral principles. Diogenes was known for his brutal honesty and his refusal to conform to societal norms. He was not afraid to question the values and beliefs of his society, often using irony and satire to drive his points home. Diogenes' philosophy was not just about personal virtue, but also about social responsibility. He believed that as members of a community, we have a duty to contribute to the common good. This meant not just avoiding harmful actions, but also actively doing good and helping others. Diogenes was known for his acts of kindness and compassion, often going out of his way to help those in need. The Cynic philosophy was not about rejecting society or its values, but about questioning them and striving for a better, more virtuous way of life. It was about rejecting superficiality and materialism, and embracing authenticity and moral excellence. In the eyes of Diogenes, a virtuous life was the only life worth living. This was not just a philosophical principle. but a way of life that he followed until his last breath. Despite the hardships and challenges he faced, Diogenes remained committed to his principles, leaving behind an indelible legacy that continues to inspire us today. Diogenes was famous for his wit and his disregard for authority. This line alone encapsulates the essence of the man who was Diogenes, a philosopher who was not afraid to question and challenge society's norms. But let's dive deeper into this facet of his philosophy. Diogenes was a radical thinker, a man who held an unwavering belief in individual freedom. He saw society and its conventions as shackles, limiting the human spirit and potential. Hence, he advocated for a life free from these constraints, a life in which one could explore their true self, unbounded by societal norms and expectations. But how did he express this philosophy? Well, his weapon of choice was his wit, his intellect, and a good dose of irony. He would often engage in confrontations with other philosophers, using his sharp tongue and quick thinking to challenge their beliefs. One such anecdote involves the renowned philosopher Plato. Plato had defined a man as a featherless biped. Diogenes, in his usual style, brought a plucked chicken into Plato's academy, declaring, "Behold, I've brought you a man." This act was a clear demonstration of Diogenes' use of irony and humor to question and challenge the accepted norms and definitions of his time. Another famous encounter was with Alexander the Great. When asked by Alexander what he desired, Diogenes responded, "Stand out of my sunlight." This simple request was a powerful statement of his belief in the value of freedom and the rejection of authority. It's also worth noting that Diogenes' philosophy of freedom extended to his personal life. He lived in a barrel, free from material possessions, choosing a life of simplicity over the pursuit of wealth and comfort. In essence, Diogenes was a philosopher who dared to challenge the status quo. He used his wit and irony to question societal norms and values, promoting a life of freedom and simplicity. His life and philosophy serve as a reminder that we should question, challenge, and not blindly accept the norms of our society. As we'll see in the next scene, his radical thinking has left a lasting legacy on philosophy and later thought. Diogenes was a philosopher who dared to challenge the status quo. Even today, over 2,000 years after his death, the philosophy of Diogenes continues to inspire. The legacy of this wandering philosopher from Cynic, who made a barrel his home and the streets his stage, persists in our collective consciousness, challenging the norms of society and redefining the pursuit of happiness. Diogenes, a radical thinker, left a profound impact on philosophy and later thought. His teachings, deeply rooted in the Cynic doctrine, advocated for a life of virtue and simplicity. He critiqued the vanity and materialism of society, calling for a return to a life lived in accordance with nature. This ethos is echoed in many philosophies and movements that came after him, with his influence seen in Stoicism, existentialism, and even in the works of thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche and Henry David Thoreau. In today's world, where material wealth and social recognition are often seen as the pinnacle of success, Diogenes' philosophy offers a compelling critique. His teachings remind us of the futility of material possessions and the emptiness of vanity. They urge us to seek happiness not in possessions or status, but in our own self-sufficiency and moral excellence. Diogenes' philosophy also encourages us to question established norms and values, to challenge authority, and to value our individual freedom. In this way, his principles resonate with modern movements advocating for personal freedom and social justice. But perhaps the most enduring aspect of Diogenes' legacy is his unwavering commitment to his beliefs, living out his philosophy with a level of dedication seldom seen. His life, as much as his teachings, inspires us to stay true to our principles, even when they stand in stark contrast to societal expectations. In essence, the philosophy of Diogenes, with its emphasis on simplicity, virtue, and freedom, continues to offer a refreshing perspective on life and happiness. His teachings, radical in his time and still thought-provoking today, challenge us to reassess our values and our pursuit of happiness. Diogenes, the philosopher who lived in a barrel, continues to challenge us to live a life of simplicity, virtue, and freedom. Diogenes left us with many memorable quotes that encapsulate his philosophy. One such quote, "We have 2 ears and 1 tongue so that we would listen more and talk less," advocates for the virtue of listening, an integral part of understanding and engaging with the world around us. Another, "He has the most who is most content with the least," reflects his belief in the importance of material detachment and self-sufficiency. Throughout this exploration of Diogenes' life, we've delved into his commitment to living in harmony with nature, his rejection of social conventions, and his pursuit of virtue. We've examined his philosophy of brutal honesty, his use of irony, and his enduring legacy that continues to inspire and provoke thought even today. In the words of Diogenes himself, "I am not an Athenian or a Greek, but a citizen of the world." A simple yet profound statement that reminds us of our shared humanity and the universal quest for understanding and wisdom.